The holidays are a time to feel and create joy. And what could be more joyous than the look on her face as she unwraps a stunning new jewelry piece from Blue Nile? How about getting 50% off your purchase? Blue Nile offers premium quality, priced below traditional retail. Their online experts are available 24/7 to answer any questions and make sure you've picked the perfect gift. For a limited time, you can get 50% off at BlueNile.com. That's 50% off at BlueNile.com.
'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
The Oregon Ducks are headed to the Fiesta Bowl to take on Ohio State. Nope, they're going to play Georgia. No, looks like... Oh, Florida State. That makes sense. Nope, the Oregon Ducks are not going to play Florida State. Who are they going to play? Who are they playing, Brenna?
Bibberty.
Bibberty?
That's what we're going to refer to them as. Bibberty.
Liberty? Yikes. Oh, well, we'll talk about that, I guess, here on the Oregonian Sports Podcast. I'm Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian. I'm joined by KOIN 6's Brenna Greene, who was in Vegas to watch the Ducks lose to the Huskies and fall all the way into a matchup with Liberty. And let me just say right now, no offense to Liberty, and that means we're probably going to be offensive, but it's not a disrespect to Liberty. It's just a disrespect to the system and the fact that the Ducks playing Liberty is just not very sexy for Duck fans and even Duck media who are going to cover it because, I mean, let's face it, it's Liberty. But hey, Liberty could win. Who knows? But let me just say that out front. We don't mean any disrespect while we're being disrespectful. But anyway, Brenna.
That's the line I'm going to use from here on out. We don't mean any disrespect while we're being disrespectful. That's perfect. That is perfect.
It's more accurate than when people say, I don't mean any disrespect, but, and then they say a series of things that are disrespectful, right? At least I'm just being upfront. Okay. Sort of upfront with a twist. Anyway, so Brenna, let's just dive right into Vegas. You were there. Great game. Very entertaining from my end to watch it. I watched it in a bar downtown loaded with Duck fans. There was some Husky fans there and they were being loud. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't have the full stadium experience, but I had a little mini experience where people were cheering at every little silly little thing that happened. So it was kind of fun to be around that as opposed to staying home on my couch. Anyway, your impressions of the game, your impressions of the event, and what it meant for the Ducks to lose this opportunity.
I mean, Oregon decided to wake up with 90 seconds in the second quarter. What a time to be alive. I wish I said this online. Like, if the hurry up offense is working, just run it the whole damn game. Like, because both times they had to go hurry up, they scored almost immediately, So yeah, that was just disappointing to see them come out so flat and just both sides of the ball just not. I mean, they think you go down 20-3. That's going to be really hard to come back from, and technically they did come back from it.
They did. They scored 3 straight touchdowns.
But it's still the other team's going to be close, and it was just too much. It was just too much. So, it's disappointing. It's one of those situations where you're just kind of like, Bo said it perfectly. He's like, you look back on your career and you're just like, man, like what I would change, like what you would change in your career, and it's like you're so close. So yeah, just the whole thing is just. It's disappointing, and then, like you said, it's disappointing how everything played out and the results of where we are at. I had somebody email me from a sister station the other day being like, hey, can you help us out with coverage at the Fiesta Bowl? I'm like, we're not traveling to the Fiesta Bowl.
You're not? Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of money for a game that is. I mean, we didn't travel to the Holiday Bowl last year. Like, it's just not the return of the ROI in that situation is not great. And I would be shocked if there are any Portland stations traveling for that game, unless it's on like ABC or something. Then maybe. Right. So yeah, I was like, because they're like, well, we're not traveling, and I'm like, yeah, well, neither are we. So like, if you're not traveling and you're the Liberty, do you think we're traveling? No. So, anyways, yeah. So that was a funny email to intake, and then go back and be like, yep, no, we're not gonna be being able to provide you with any extra help. I'm sorry. So.
Yeah, definitely a disappointing situation. All things involved, and the game was fascinating because Oregon just ran all over Washington in the first meeting, and when we did Talking Ducks, I was trying to like, okay, what's my key to the game going to be? And I'm like, they get to keep running the football, which is pretty basic because usually when you run the football well, you win, but. Yeah, I felt it was important they would have to do that if they didn't, it would be an awful lot to ask Bo to try and outdo Penix alone. And they didn't run the football well at all. They only had 120-something yards, and most of that was Bo Nix, and most of that was off of that 44-yard run where the defensive end jumped in the air at a really weak fake by Bo and let Bo run for 44 yards. It drives me nuts when defensive linemen do that. But anyway, so yeah, once they couldn't run the football, and once it was obvious that Penix was on a different level than he had been the previous 6 weeks, and it was clear that all the analysis that Oregon had outplayed Washington since their meeting in Seattle meant that Oregon was better and they were going to win was wrong. I got seduced into that last minute. I kind of felt like these two teams were even, but one team was outplaying the other by far for 6 weeks. So I went with that one team, even though I had picked the Huskies to win the championship preseason. And I paid the price because the Huskies, you said at one point the Huskies played down to their competition. And yeah, they do. And they also play up to their competition. And that's what they did in this game. And they're the best team in the conference by 6 points and over 2 games. It was really, really close. Props to them. 13-0 is impressive regardless of how you get there, unless you're Florida State. So it was just one of those situations where it was sad to see everything crumble the way it did for Oregon fans, but the better team won. End of story. So moving on to now the discussion before we get to the Liberty game, then you got the Heisman discussion, right? So many believed, and I was sort of on this train, that if Oregon won that game, that's enough to get Bo enough votes to maybe overtake Daniels, who has way better stats than both these two, but was 9-3. And Bo the team did not get that done. And so I don't think he's going to win the Heisman. I think Daniels is a clear favorite. My vote, just revealing it here, I went with Daniels first, Nix second, Penix third. I went with Nix over Penix because Nix had by far the best season. You go look at Nix's game log, not one bad game. He threw 3 picks, and in the three games he threw a pick in, he threw 10 touchdowns combined. Like, he did not have a bad day. Penix had some off nights. And then people say, well, yeah, but he beat Bo twice. Well, it's not boxing, right? So he didn't beat Bo twice. His team beat Oregon twice. And in those games, he didn't really necessarily outplay Bo Nix. I mean, it was pretty close either way. So I went with Bo because I think Bo just had a way better all-around season, and I got Penix third. So that's where I'm at. What do you think's going to happen? Who would you vote for?
Yeah, definitely Bo is not winning. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's Daniels. At the end of the day, I do think that recency bias gets people, and it becomes Penix over Bo, because I just know how people operate. So even though I do think you're correct, I think Bo had a better season, and also a few of those picks weren't necessarily his fault. Like, it was off the receiver's hands or something like that. It wasn't even really his doing. So,
the third one came on Friday, and it was a weird situation where the DB and the receiver went out, and then Bo doesn't think there's a defensive back there, and he blends in with the rest of his teammates, right? And then he jumps back on the field and picks it after Bo threw it. It was a pretty fascinating play, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I do think it ends. I think it's Daniels, Penix, Bo, and then the guy from Ohio State, who I hope he enjoys a nice trip to New York City.
who might actually be the best
player. He might end up being the best player of the group.
It's just when you're a receiver, you're gonna break ranks with those, or get into that group with 3 quarterbacks who put up those types of numbers. You have to have like 1,800 yards and 20 touchdowns. You can't, it has to be pretty special.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, he could totally end up being the best pro, but the Heisman is not who is the best pro. The Heisman is who's the best college player. And like you said, it is very difficult. I mean, it's very difficult in the NFL to be a receiver and win MVP. I mean, Cooper Kupp did it a few years ago, but that was like,
and Moss and Rice, I think, are the only 3 in 40 years.
I mean, it's really difficult to do. So, congratulations on getting there, sir. So, yeah, but, gosh, I mean, by the way, did you see that Nix's dad won a state championship last night? Yeah.
Oh, did he?
So, I mean, that family overall having a pretty good year. Yeah, brothers on Clemson. Clemson was kind of up and down, but generally, what a year to be a Nix. And then you had.
Did they sneak Nix into the?
Oh, he was there. Yeah, he was there.
On the field, put him in uniform. That's just fine.
No, I saw videos of him in normal people clothes at the game.
Normal people
clothes. So, but also happy that it worked out for him to go, because obviously this week's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, you had Tez into the mix. Nobody thought Tez was going to have the year that he had for Oregon. Pretty good year if you're a Nix, I got to say.
Definitely.
And, thankfully, this is not the last time we're going to be seeing Bo in an Oregon uniform. Just what are your thoughts on him deciding to play in the bowl game, even though it is against our friends at Bibberty?
Yeah, so when Bo at his press conference after the loss to Washington said he wasn't sure if he was going to play in the bowl game, I was a little offended, because I'm like, and I know that's sort of how people do things, but I would think if you were a team contending for a national championship and that doesn't happen, but you're going to play a marquee opponent like a Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, that you might get up for that game, and that would be a big victory or a big event for the program. And so you want your dudes there for that. So I was like, he needs to play in that game. But then when it was announced that they were going to play Liberty, I was like, okay, no, he shouldn't play in that game. He should let that go. But to his credit, he wants to play. He wants to go out on a high note. He wants to rally his teammates and go out there and play one last time for Oregon. And I love it. I just think it's great for the program. They should win. So it'll be great for him to end on a high note. So very glad he made that choice. But I would have understood had he said, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think nobody would have hated him if he would have said, I'm not going to do it. I do think that him saying, yes, I am going to do it, definitely cements him in the lore of Oregon quarterbacks. It's like, all right, what kind of legacy do you want to leave? And that's the legacy he's leaving. And I think it says a lot about him and his character. Because like I said, nobody would have blamed him if he would have been like, no, I'm going to protect my draft stock here. No one. Right. But the fact that he's like, I want to go out, hopefully with a win, and I want to play one last time with this team. There's been a lot of talk about how connected this team is all year from all parties, him and Lanning in particular. And, you never know if all that is just, Not that I ever thought that. Like, I did really believe it. But when you see something like that happen, it's like, okay, that was faux real, okay? And
so let me ask you this, though. Let me ask you this. What if it had been at Georgia? Could this all have been reversed, and Bo could have been like, I'm not about to go out there and get smashed by Georgia for free. But Liberty, you'd be thinking, I'm going to put 60 on Liberty.
The way that it was phrased, and maybe I am reading this wrong, but the way that it was phrased in the press conference, it sounded like him and Lanning met before the bowl game came out. And Bo said, I want to play.
Regardless of the opponent.
That's how it came off to me. Now, I might be reading things wrong.
No,
but that's kind of how the gist I got from the answer. So who knows? Okay. But
regardless.
But
good for him.
I really do think he would have played no matter what. I really do. Okay. You think Bo's going to back down from playing at Georgia, especially after
Well,
yeah.
no, I know what you're going to say. I'm just thinking in terms of
getting injured.
The whole argument to not play is that you're protecting your body, really.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And so Georgia is going to put more hurting on his body than Liberty is. So I'm not even criticizing him. I'm saying if I were choosing and I were leaning towards not playing because of the physical dangers of it, and then you told me I'm playing Liberty, and I look at 5 minutes of Liberty film, and I'm like, those guys are never going to touch me. We're going to slice right through them. I feel a lot better about not getting injured than if I'm playing Georgia.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, but I don't see Bo, especially in light of this decision now. It just backs up everything that it kind of backs up everything you thought you knew about him. I just don't see he's just such a competitor. He's just not going to back down from anything. So, like I said, I appreciate him giving the fan base one last game, because I think that means a lot to everybody. So, congratulations, Bo. You've cemented yourself as a good dude.
I wonder if he gets a bonus for this game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some sort of that's actually not a bad. I wonder if they have that worked into NIL deals.
How does that work? You know what, Bo? Got an extra $100K for you for playing this game, bro. Yeah, who knows these days? But anyway, regardless of if he did it because it's Liberty and he got some extra cash, he's playing. That's all that matters. All right. Let's talk just a little bit about this Liberty matchup. 14-point spread, not 34, not 24, 14, which tells you that Vegas thinks it's going to be a decent football game. Liberty has an offense. They got a dual threat quarterback who put up 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, rushed for I think close to 1,000 or 700 yards, something like that. I can't remember. I looked them up the other day. So they got a dude who can make some plays, and the defense so they didn't play any Power 5 schools at all, which is the rule was put in for a group of 5 to get into the mix, because you were seeing teams do so who were getting wins over Power 5 teams, and they were kind of getting left out. This is one that didn't get a win over a Power 5 team. They're not a top 10 team. They're ranked 18th or 20th or whatever. I think it's ridiculous that Oregon got stuck with them. No offense again to Liberty, but it's ridiculous. That Liberty does not deserve to be in a New Year's Six Bowl by any stretch of the imagination. But here they are. So do the Ducks go out there and just boat race these guys, or do you think it might be?
I really wonder if this is the weakest group of 5 team to ever play on a New Year's Six Bowl. I'm just.
Well, I think so, because the rule is pretty new, isn't it?
So I'm thinking of.
So all the ones before had to have been really, like when Boise State played Oklahoma and beat them, but that Boise State team was really, really good. And they had already gone through a stretch where they were winning games against Power 5 teams, at least every other year.
Tulane last year, I wasn't surprised when they beat USC.
Yeah. Right, because USC can't stop anybody, and Tulane had an offense. I think the game was 48-49 or something like that, right?
So, yeah, it's God. I think we all wish it was a little different, but here we are. So,
here we are.
So, yeah, but it, like you said, no Power 5 teams. It's just not sexy,
No, they beat UMass. They beat. I looked at the schedule. UTEP.
I saw a chart the other day that says that the Fiesta Bowl is down 63% in ticket sales.
Oh yeah,
they're the low, they have I don't remember where I saw this chart, so I can't quite pull it up. But it was looking at it. It was ranking bowl games by how much they were up or down from ticket sales the last year, and the Fiesta Bowl was dead last. So those bowl committee is not a happy bunch. I'm sure they are not going to be making any coin on this one.
Okay, so Liberty University has okay, I was about to say something stupid. They have 94,000 enrollment. Wait a minute.
There's no way. Is that online?
Wait, 20,000 there's 50,000 in undergraduate school and 18,000 and 40 something thousand in graduate school. Holy crap. Okay, so they have a huge student body. So maybe a lot of them are going to go because it's such a big deal if they care that much about football. But if you're an Oregon fan, there was a time when Oregon fans were turning their nose up at the Rose Bowl because they won a national title game. So are they going to go to the Fiesta Bowl to see them play Liberty? I just don't know. Their football attendance average is 19,000. So let's say 10 of those go, and another 10 from across the country are excited, and they go. Graduates. That's 20. Liberty gets there. I'm just completely making this up. But you don't have a nationwide fan base. No. Like Oregon has fans all up and down the West Coast, Washington as well, right? USC as well, right? So you have a game anywhere on the West Coast, and there's a bunch of Duck fans in that area who the Ducks are in town. They can go to the game. And that's the same in Arizona. And if you're California, that's close to Arizona, and people will go down there easily. But Liberty doesn't bring that to the table. So usually when the Ducks have played in these big bowl games, they've played against teams like Wisconsin, Auburn, Florida State that have those types of followings, right? And so they'll flood themselves into a big stadium and make it a huge event. Right now, the Ducks got to carry this thing, and I don't know how incentivized they're going to be to do so unless you start giving tickets away. We got 50-yard line, 5 rows up, going for $17.99. That comes with free food throughout the game. Then people might go.
I don't think the Duck fan base would even show up if you were giving tickets away, because you still got to pay for. I mean, bowl games are expensive, man. Like you have flights within a month of it getting booked. That's not cheap. Over a holiday weekend, also not cheap. Then you've got hotels, not cheap. Food, it's just like it adds. Bowl games are. I mean, there's a reason why we're not going to this thing. Like it's a lot of money. So So yeah, I mean, even if you give tickets away to Ducks fans, like honestly, like the tickets it's the thing that probably costs the least amount of money when you add it all up.
Maybe they can get enough people from Arizona and California, Southern California. That's only like a 4-hour drive, right? Maybe they can get enough of them to come and join if the tickets are reasonable. We'll see.
Yeah.
In a few weeks, fans will be jonesing for some football. Bo Nix will be playing. There'll be some hype around it. People are like, you know what? Let's just go. We got nothing better to do. Let's go watch a Duck game. So
I long to have that type of money in my life.
All right, let's move along to the playoff situation that Oregon's not a part of because of their loss. In our Michigan, number 1 seed, number 2 seed, Washington, number 3, Texas, number 4, Bama left out, Florida State, 13-0, a Power 5 conference team going 13-0 and not getting into the playoffs. This has just sent everyone into a tizzy, which is kind of hilarious to me because when you have a flawed system, you're going to have flawed results. It's just going to happen. It's inevitable. You shouldn't have a situation where you have 4 conference champions get in, or sometimes not even 4 conference champions, but you have 5 Power 5 conferences. It's silly. But here we are. So before I give my take on the entire situation, I think we're going to differ on this. So I want you to go first so I can counterpunch, because that's my thing. What you got?
Well, there is no world in which the committee was going to leave off a team from the SEC. That is just not going to happen, regardless of there being 2 teams in that conference now with 1 loss. I would have loved to have seen that chaos. I think that would have been hilarious. But, that's not going to happen. We're going to put the SEC team in. So once you look at it from that lens of like, there's no way they're leaving an SEC school out, then you know that they have to bring Texas in, because if you don't bring Texas in, you're saying that head-to-head results don't matter. So it makes sense to me how it all went down. However, obviously it does set a precedent that's not great. I guess, that precedent doesn't matter very much because it's going away next
People keep
year.
saying that. This sets a precedent for what? 12 teams are going to be in from now on. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I feel for Florida State a little bit. It's such a hard situation because do I think that Alabama is better than Florida State? Yes. Yes, I do. I do think Alabama is better than Florida State. So I guess that is just how you have to look at it. And, that, is that number 4 team better than Florida? Now, is Texas better than Florida State? Honestly, that's a bigger question for me. That's more of a question for me than Alabama. So especially with the fact that, oh God, Texas has a backup quarterback doing its thing too. Or no, never mind. Quinn was back. I got that all mixed up. Anyways, okay. So yeah, you just have a really interesting, it's a really interesting situation, but generally the system, as you said, ridiculously flawed. And there aren't many things that the NCAA does well in this world, but I'll give them this. The FCS playoffs, I think there's 24 teams in the FCS playoffs. That's probably too many, honestly. But if FCS teams can do this, how in the world can FBS teams not do this? And let me answer that question for you. Yes, because in the FBS, there's a bowl.
You kind of emphasize BS on that.
Yeah. Wonder why. And so, this whole system has just been completely we could already be here. We should already be. This is nonsense. This is nonsense. But we're here because a bunch of these old games. I mean, I'm just going to be frank. I don't understand people's I don't understand people's infatuation, not infatuation.
Fascination.
That isn't the right word. Emotional connection to bowl games.
Adulation. I don't get it. But that's one of the huge reasons why we are here and why Florida State doesn't get a chance is because there's been all this back and forth over bowl games. And there's just all bowl games is just a money grabbing operation at this point. They don't really serve they don't serve much in my eyes. And, yeah, they're dumb and stupid, and I can keep going, but I'm going to let you go instead. So go ahead. I've hated the college football system since I was told about it when I was 8 or 9. I was flabbergasted. An incredulous argumentative Aaron Fentress was like, wait a minute, what? They do what? They vote on it? Because I was already at that point into the NFL playoffs. That was really cool with the brackets and who they're going to play this team and then you move on to play our team. And college football didn't have that. So I've been disgusted with the entire thing. The BCS was a little bit better because then at least you avoided having 2 undefeated teams not play, although one year an undefeated team didn't get in, Auburn, because they didn't qualify for the top 2. So then you go to 4. 4 was better than the BCS, but clearly not where they should have gone because you get situations like this. And part of the thing that the college football want is they want people arguing about it all year. And the media and fans fall for it because 4 or 5 weeks into the season, people start arguing about who's going to be in the playoffs. And there's 6 teams, who's going to get in? Well, we've got a lot of football left, so let's worry about that in December. But this kind of thing is bound to happen. They should have fixed it before this year, and now here you are. That all said.
Hilariously, the reason why it didn't get fixed is because the Big 12, the Big 10, the Pac-12 blocked it. Or else it would be fixed by this year. Yeah,
there's always some kind of politics and stupidity in there. And yeah, you said the Pac-12 blocked it. Well, they blocked Oregon in the end. So,
yep.
Now that said, you're faced with this flawed system. That when you have a flawed system, you're going to have poor results. At the end of the day, since you're restricted to 4, it's clear, though, that there are several other teams that were playoff caliber, especially when you look at last year when TCU got in. didn't even win its conference championship game, but it got in because it wasn't this deep of a field. But dude, Ohio State gets screwed because they don't get a second crack at Michigan, but Oregon got a second crack at Washington. Different systems, different conferences, right? Georgia, at 29 straight games, defending two-time national champions, they lose to Bama, a really good team, and they're out. That's ridiculous. But again, you're limited to 4. As far as I'm concerned, Florida State, leaving them out was the right choice. I don't even think it's even a debate. I can't believe people are arguing about this because their best player is out. And that's literally listed in the criteria, is if you have significant injuries that, hurt your team significantly. And losing your star quarterback is huge, especially when your backups just ain't it. They got 48 yards passing from, I can't remember the kid's name, against Louisville in the ACC championship game and won 16-6, power to the defense. And prior to that, against North Alabama, one kid had a good game, but then after that at Florida, I think he completed for 48% of his passes or something like that. So you got 2 kids. It's not like this is Cardale Jones in Ohio State, who was a third-string quarterback for Ohio State, and they beat the Ducks. They beat Bama, and then they beat the Ducks in the playoffs. That kid was good. He was drafted into the NFL. These guys are not good. So Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, Bama, Texas, Washington, Michigan all destroy Florida State. Now, any team can win on any given day. We all know that. So, okay, maybe in a 7-game series, they win 1 and lose 4 against all those teams I just mentioned, and 1 is a fluke. Bama destroys, and with no quarterback, with no threat in the pocket, you're just dead meat to a team with a lot of good athletes on defense. So what the committee said is that we believe 100% that Florida State's just going to get rolled because they don't have a quarterback. And what we saw in those 2 games at quarterback is not going to get it done against these teams. They're a 14-point dog against Georgia for a reason, and they would get smoked in the playoffs. That's why they're out, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah, let's just be frank. This Florida State team, they're boring. There's no flash with them. I mean, they have a great defense, but other than that, it's just kind of like, okay, we're humming along. So it's a tough situation. It's hard. I don't feel as strongly about them being left out as some other people do, I think. I do wonder, this is something that I've been wondering. If Oregon had won, do we think they still get in?
Yeah, they're in over Washington. Absolutely.
You think so? Do you think they get in no matter what? They don't get edged by Florida State?
No.
Yeah. No. I think you're probably right.
They got no quarterback.
But you know how it is with West Coast teams. Somehow they always end up getting screwed. So, it wouldn't have surprised me if somehow they did end up getting screwed in that situation.
The Ducks have juice. The Ducks have juice, though.
I'm also fascinated to just see the fallout with Florida State and the ACC. That's going to be that. I mean, whoo! They were trying to get out. Now we're at light speed, baby. So that's going to be interesting to watch over the next few years. But yeah, I mean, I think that you're right. That it's just obvious those other teams are just better than Florida State right now. Even though, it's so hard not rewarding a Power 5 conference or champion for going undefeated. It's really, really difficult. But
it's stupid.
As you said, also, this is the system you set up. So this is where it's at. And yeah, bowl games are stupid and dumb, and it is what has held the sport back for years and years. This antiquated system has held everyone back for years.
Facts.
And once again, it rears its ugly head. Bowl games should go away. And that is my hot take for the day. And as somebody, the public doesn't see this, but these bowl committee, there's these bowl committees, right? Of all these powerful, let's be frank, men. All right. And they travel. And that's not me. This is a fact. It is a fact of life. I have never once in all the college football games I've attended seen a bowl committee represented by a woman. Never once. Because it's an old boys club. Okay. And they go around the country with their money and they go and scout teams at games. Don't know why that's super necessary, But here we are. So they all show up to the game and they get to smooze and do all this. And it's just this system that is it's so tired. It's so tired. And it always ends up, there's always some sort of situation where it does this. And it doesn't make any sense to me why it's still around. And it's because there's a lot of, it does make sense to me. There's a lot of money in it. People don't want to give up money. But at the end of the day, like, it's the craziest thing. There is a system for college football that is not controlled by the NCAA for postseason. That is insane. No other sport has that, and it is the NCAA's highest grossing sport, and they don't have any control. It's crazy. Anyways, there's my greater rant for the day. Why are bowls still a thing? And that is one of the reasons why we are where we are. So it's a great time.
Brenna, I agree. I hear you, Brenna. I agree with you 100%. But we will have the bowl system still, but we'll have 12 teams in playoffs, so people can cry about the number 13 team now, or seeding, because people didn't complain about that, because who should be the top 4 seeds, have the bye, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. At least teams will be in. Real quick before we cap out of here, Dillon Gabriel, Oklahoma quarterback, looks like he's going to join the Ducks. How are you feeling about that in terms of them sticking with Ty Thompson?
Not surprising. I mean, I've been thinking about this a lot. If I were a freshman out of college in today's college football landscape, unless I was a Dante Moore or something like that, I would actually not go to a Power 5 program. I would go to a Group of 5 program, absolutely slay. I mean, just go out and murder people.
Whoa.
And then transfer to the Power 5 program. Because that is the way now. You just, like, I wouldn't go to Power 5 because you're going to get skipped over again and again and again for the hot, sexy transfer quarterback. Oregon. So if you can't beat them, join them, baby. Become a hot, sexy transfer quarterback from Toledo or whatever. Which, by the way, Toledo's quarterback's transferring. So that's what I would do. That's how I would play this thing. I'd be like, all right, if the whole system is about transfer quarterbacks, which, boy, it sure seems like that. I mean, look around the Pac-12 this year. Let's see. UW's quarterback, transfer. WSU's quarterback, transfer. OSU's quarterback, transfer. Oregon's quarterback, transfer. USC's quarterback, transfer. Arizona's quarterback, transfer. And then Fafita came in and started playing. But at the beginning, transfer. Who am I missing here? But that's just off the top of my head. So
Ty Thompson, what Ty Thompson should have done, and I think you're 100% right. He just wasted 3 years of his career. And I think he redshirted one, obviously. But had he gone to a place where it was like guaranteed he was going to start, and it doesn't matter where, right? It's, like you said, it could be a Group of 5. It could be FCS, just somewhere where you're going to play. And then maybe your first year, you're a freshman and you're not great, but if you're on a lower level, then probably you should be recruited to, then you're probably going to do pretty well. And then the next year you improve. And then maybe after that year, Oregon comes, hey, we want you to come be our starter because look what you put on film. We've seen you now in games, or someone else does, or maybe it takes one more year and then you leave. But instead, he came to Oregon thinking he was going to be the guy because they told him he was going to be the guy sooner rather than later. But they brought back Anthony Brown, and you couldn't beat him out because you just couldn't. You weren't ready. And then they knew, I knew that season they were going to go get a transfer. There's no way they were going to roll with him the next year. And so Lanning comes in, and he immediately goes out and gets Bo Nix. So now you're screwed for at least one. Oh, Nix comes back for 2 more years. And now you 3 years into this thing, and they're going to go get not a one-hit wonder, but a guy who's going to give you 1 year in Dillon Gabriel. So yeah, you're 100% right. Quarterbacks need to go find a place they can play right away and then build up their resume and then go to the marquee program. The other side to this is that if Ty Thompson had come to Oregon and he lit it up as a freshman and lit it up last year, he might have just left anyway, right? Maybe someone comes and steals him. Fair. I'm waiting to see if that ever happens. Although I think Oregon will always have the money to be able to keep someone like that. But yeah, I agree with you. It's just a waste of time for Ty at this point because he put in the work. And maybe he's just, I haven't talked to anyone about him in a year. Maybe he just hasn't evolved enough to the point where they feel comfortable about him clearly. Or maybe they do feel good about him, but Dillon Gabriel is just way too good. And you can go get him and he's just going to be better. And then you're kind of screwing Ty a little bit in a way that way. But anyway, you're right. Why even bother? And if you're the programs, why bother? Because you're going to want to go cherry pick someone proven over the kid you're going to recruit who may or may not be great. And the Marcuses and the Herberts of the world are rare. So I don't know. It's all bad. All right, real quick, Oregon State. Bray hired, players leaving, Childs to Michigan State, DJ leaving, the tight ends left. What's this program going to look like after all the defections?
I mean, it's going to look like what we all thought it was going to look like. You got Martinez back, and that's a huge feather in your cap. Other than that, it's a rough scene out here. But I think that they hired the best person they could hire for the job. In terms of at least trying to keep some players around, because you bring in somebody new, see ya. That whole program is going to be out. So, I think that they did their best, and they brought someone in who understands the limitations better than anybody else. That's, and I think that is important right now for that team. But yeah, I mean, this is going to look like a mid-level Mountain West team at best next year, and that's just the reality of the situation. I do find it hilarious that after everything that happened this previous offseason and getting a new quarterback, guess who's going to be starting in the Sun Bowl? Bengal Branson. He's back, baby, and he's back for another bowl MVP. Let's get it. So I do find that just to be the height of irony. The height of irony.
All right, that's it for the Oregonian Sports Podcast. Thanks for listening. Please join our subtext feature by texting JOIN to 503-386-0095. You can receive text messages with information about articles we've written at the Oregonian and tidbits about the teams we covered, from myself to Bill Oram to Nick Daschel to James Crepia, etc. All you have to do is text JOIN to 503-386-0095. You will receive a link. Click the link and start your 14-day trial. And after that, it's only $3.99 a month. Thanks for listening. Please click the subscription button and give us a 5-star feedback. We'd appreciate that. And we'll catch you next week.